Okay, so we talked about hunting for fur, and we talked about hunting the deer. Now, there was another very, very common beast that was hunted in the medieval world, and this was boar. Now, hunting in the medieval period, the treatise that we talked about, there was one that was coming out of France. There was also one that was rewritten based on the sort of the treatise coming out of France that was written in England. But there was different kinds of animals that were hunting around Europe. So bear was hunted in the northeastern parts of Europe. Boar was a very common animal to be hunted in France and parts of southern England as well. And the boar hunt, like the deer hunt, was something that was kind of reserved for the gentry. So the deer was seen as a very noble animal, intelligent, fast, cunning. It had a nobility to it. The boar, to a lesser extent, was the same. It was very, very powerful. It was really respected for its brute strength and power. And so it was reserved for the gentry to go hunting. And like the deer, these were huge hunting parties that were involved in this. It wasn't just a case of one guy going off with a team of dogs and going into the forest and going hunting deer. There was a huge economy and social aspect around it. But they were using different kinds of techniques and different sorts of weapons. So we're going to talk about a little bit of those and how you go boar hunting. Now, the biggest difference between the boar and the deer is the sheer power of the boar. They have huge tusks on the front of them. They run with the weight and the power of a horse as far as the power goes, and the weight of a full-grown man, if not more. So they're incredibly destructive. The two sort of ways, very similar to the deer that could be hunted, you could hunt the boar by exhausting it. So you send in team after team to run the boar down to get it tired to the point where you can then go in and start attacking it. But the big difference between the deer hunting and the boar hunting comes in using this kind of weapon. So this is called a boar spear. You've got this sort of very broad head here, but this is the really important bit, the crossguard. So this is shown on lots of images from the period, and it has a very specific purpose when hunting boar. So we said that one way you can do it is by chasing down the animal, getting it to the point of exhaustion, and going in with a sword, going in with a spear from horseback. Now, unlike what you're going to do with the deer, where you'd form a shooting line and the gentleman would wait for their hunters to run the deer towards you, and you'd shoot the deer with a bow and arrow. Now, a bow and arrow, if it's well placed on a deer, will bring it down, but on a boar, you're going to have to be extraordinarily skilled or lucky to bring that boar down with a single shot. So what they tended to do with boars is, as they were driven towards the men, instead of using bow and arrow, they would use boar spears. Now, this is an incredibly dangerous way to face a boar. There were numerous instances of men taking vast personal damage, getting gored by the tusks, getting killed at times, coming out with severe injuries. But what you're aiming to do is wait until your hunters are driving the boar towards you. Then as you see the boar approach, you brace the spear, you drop down, and you try and wait for the boar to rear up or to charge towards you. So I'm about 3 or 4 foot from the end of this spear. So what I'm hoping is the boar impales itself smoothly onto this, straight into the throat, straight into the chest. It impales itself on this spike, on the point of the spear. But the boar is so big, so powerful, that it doesn't know that it's dead when it already is. It's going to force itself down onto this spear, and it will slide right down the spear, and it will gore me with its tusks, rip into my chest, rip into my throat, anything else. So this bracing bar is to protect me. So as I stand here, the boar throws itself onto the spear. I try and hold its weight. I hope that the shaft doesn't break. I hope that the crossbeam doesn't snap, and I can keep the boar at bay long enough for it to actually die on the point of my spear. It's incredibly dangerous to do. Now, as brave as the man holding this has got to be, and as dangerous as a way as hunting boar as that is, there are accounts of men leaping from horseback with a dagger in hand and jumping onto the boars. A true level of insanity, showing the bravery. And what you have is this social aspect. They're not hunting the boar just to kill it. They're not hunting the boar for its meat. They're hunting the boar to show their manliness, to show their proficiency as a hunter, as a warrior, as a fighter, to show themselves off amongst their peers and amongst the men around them. The more dangerous the way that you kill the animal, the more kudos, the more machismo, the more respect you get from those around you. It may be that it's the end of your life because you end up gored on the tusks of a boar, but if not, the bragging rights that you have as you take this boar back home and you tell your friends, yeah, I didn't use the spear, I went in with just a dagger and leapt onto the back of it. Now, in one of the other talks, I was saying about the different kinds of dogs that would be used. So the dogs that were used when hunting boar were very similar to the ones that were hunting deer, and there's broadly speaking two kinds. There are the bloodhounds. So these were used in packs to find the trail. They would sniff for the scent of the droppings. They might follow the blood trail if you'd ended up shooting the deer but it bolted, and they would be very good at sniffing out the trail, and they have a good loping step. So they would stay, one animal would stay on the trail, tracking the animal as we go along. The other kind of animal, the other kind of dog that was used were the ones that were used in packs, and these were loud running dogs. They were kept on a lead, on a leash by the hunters, and they would be used for driving the animal. So the bloodhounds were generally quite quiet, and they would be used in singular or maybe small teams to be chasing or finding the trail of the animal. These hounds that were used on the leash were used in multiple groups. These are the groups that were used to drive the animal on, drive the boar towards the hunters, force the deer into the shooting line. And they would be very loud, they would be able to run very fast, but they didn't have the endurance. That's why you'd use multiple different groups of them. And all of these animals were bred especially for the purpose. So the kennels in the castles and in the manor houses of the gentlemen who would be going on these hunts, these animals were trained, they were bred, and they were maintained. Now, a lot of the breeds have actually gone extinct since the medieval period. Some of them have been rebred into it, and if you look at hunts now, fox hunting now, they have large packs of dogs, beagles and things like this. These are the kind of descendants of those animals. So if you've ever seen a fox hunt, or you know what one is, the animals, the dogs, are not really there to necessarily kill the fox. They're there to drive the fox on, so the men on horseback can chase after it. And these again are the different kinds of animals involved in the hunt to get the animal, to get the prey where you want it, where you can then kill it and dispatch it.